Hi everyone, my name is Mariana and today we're going to analyze my followers' art. I wasn't expecting so many people to send me their art for analysis, so I really couldn't get to everybody, and I chose just a select few that I saw a lot of issues that were very common. I'm not sure how I'll express myself. I wanted to do this video more candid, like a class, but let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna go to the video now. So for this first submission, I noticed the striking color palette, which I loved. But then I realized the person had a little bit of an issue with the face. So I first mapped out how I think they saw it and drew over with how I would approach it. In a lot of these drawings, people use liquify, but in a lot of these kind of videos, but I thought just drawing it the way I would be a little bit more helpful because the person could see what I'm actually talking about with the structure. I tried keeping the nose and the features kind of the same as the original, but I did let my style influence me a bit. I'm so sorry for the person. I thought the eyes looked a little bit flat, they look a little bit like stickers, and you really don't want that. So I really think you should watch the Cynics, I think is how I pronounce the name, video on eyeballs. I'm gonna link it down in the description. In fact, I'm gonna link all the videos I mentioned in this video on the description. I think they are all very helpful. In this video, I'm setting out to actually help people without their art and stuff. So I tried to follow the bangs. If the head was tilted, you did a really good job with them. They really show that, and I think it was something that could have been approached a little bit better in the original. I also think since this is such a striking character design, and in this part I noticed this color bit. I don't know if it's hair or if it's like a golden spot on the clothing, but I think you should really think better about this kind of detail because it was a bit confusing, and I know a lot of people are not gonna look through art for a very long time. It's something to think about when you're working. Like every time you add something, think, why is it there? Does it serve any purpose? That's something that I struggle with, but I think you should think about. I also, I was going to say, I added a little bit of volume to her hair. I thought that would make the curls stick out more. And then I decided to outline the face just to be sure that I was correct about the angle. Here I color drop and just kind of fill in the space so you can see a more clear before and after. I also re-rendered the curls, but I think I cut that part because I don't think it was very necessary, and it's not what the video is about. The video is not about rendering, it's about how you structurally fix things. So yeah. I also noticed you tend to draw hands very small. I believe that's because you don't really like drawing them, and when you don't like drawing something, you naturally make it small. And I also noticed with those sleeves, you didn't really figure out how they should work, like how puffy sleeves should look. And I think that's a little bit of a sad thing about the drawing, because when you go and make this kind of small detail, it's nice to try to understand how they work, because you can use it for future pieces. Nothing you look at or reference in the work goes to waste. And then here I was just trying to fix the colors a little bit. Like I said, the colors were very striking, and if you don't like this more orangey version, I totally get. I'm just showing how I would approach it. I would try messing with layers and gradient maps and color values. That kind of thing helps me a bunch. And I didn't really understand why the background was this purplish, this reddish color. So I changed it to blue, but then again, if you don't like it, your drawing has a really cute color palette. Here we have another submission. I first just fixed the circle. You should really try to keep this kind of more inorganic shapes very precise. It makes your art look more professional. I really love that drawing. I saw it and thought, wow, this looks professional. And then when I looked at it for a bit longer, I thought some things that I could help you level up. So just so you know, this is a very good piece. I really liked it. I'm just showing some small things I think could really help. I think the cape was shaped a little bit weird and the dog kind of blending in with the character. So I put a little bit of a highlight on his back. Your art style doesn't have a lot of highlights, so I'm sorry if that's not really what you were going for. But I just put it to like separate him from her. I love his design. He's such a cutie. I would personally not even have put him in that spot. It's a bit messy. I'd have him like on the bottom or maybe like doing something different because she's floating, he could be floating too, you know. Here I think I'm fixing the cape. Yeah, I'm showing a little bit more sleeve, and then here I'm gonna cut a hole in this part of the cape. Even if it would kind of puff out in real life, I don't think it would be so much, and it really gives the character a more clean look when every line just follows the same thing. And when it's in this way, it follows the shape of her torso and legs, which I think give her such a nice silhouette. But that's just on me. Like, I think it does have a lot of basis on design, but if you like the way it was before, that's totally okay. You clearly know your shit. So here I'm just fixing the clock. I also thought, hey, this clock's a little bit messy. If I were you, I would make it very clean. Your art style has a lot of like sketchy lines and stuff, which I do like, surprisingly, because have you ever seen my art? But I think very like mechanical things, you could keep it more clean. And I also made it a little bit lighter because I think it was blending with her a little bit too much. I think if she stood out a bit, it would be better. Just as a rule of thumb, just always put your pieces in black and white, my people. You can see the contrast, you can see if it reads, especially if you have a very 2D style. But then again, I think that was very minor kind of fixing. You have a very good eye. I think you're going places, and that's very nice. Keep going. Here, that this like in the bottom is your light source, but I really wouldn't think that from first glancing at it. Here you have a much more obvious light source, but the parts that are on the light are not very clearly readable, which is a little bit of the opposite problem in those two. But personally, I think the bottom one reads a little bit better, and they are also the same character. They're both Annabeth from Percy Jackson, and they look a bit too different. So, and looking at the other pictures, I'm probably gonna put them back on the screen now. They also have a widely different style, so I think that might be an issue for you. I think that's something that may be bothering you. I personally like the bottom one a bit more. Like I said, I think the bigger eyes are better for you. I used to have the same issue that I made the eyes a little bit too small. In this case, because I also am familiar with the reference, of course I am. So here you can tell that this is kind of how you structure the face. I'm doing it very roughly so you can just see my point. The character you're going for, they have a little bit of a more soft face like this. It differs from yours quite a bit. I think your main problem is that you need to picture a skull underneath it. Like if I were to model a skull here, I'd probably do something like that. And then here would be like the eye socket, the nose, and then here you can just like do whatever for the mouth. This is what I call a reduced skull for anatomy purposes. When I'm really struggling with the face, I draw a skull under it. I just get it up a few sizes, and then the face doesn't match. The face I drew matched a little bit better. I think this is a little bit too it sticks out a bit too much when I draw the skull, and that's not really what we're looking for with simplified art styles. I tried to match this one a bit to the other one in the bottom, but with my own spin on it, because you really can't draw like other people, you can only draw like yourself. I like that you have bounce light. That's a very good trick, not a lot of beginners know. So I can tell you've been doing art for at least a little bit of time, or that you have a really keen eye, which is very good. You see here, we don't see her eyebrow and her eyes are a little bit blurry. You want your art to be readable from afar, and even if it is a little bit low res, I'm just gonna color drop it. You did a good job with the colors, although I'd personally just go for a little bit of a more rosy tone for the oranges. What I do when I don't want this really like harsh look from like black line art on a piece where it's like I would fill the line art in with this, and that's kind of what I would do, so it didn't look so harsh. That's basically what I would do. I'd add a little bit of skull here, maybe you'd like some bounce light in the hair too. Feel like this is very dark, I'd maybe put the background flipped, so this dark mountain is on her light side and the light sky is on her dark side, so you have this nice kind of contrast. But that's just me though, you don't really have to follow that. I like to put contrasting elements to my characters. In the bottom one, you have kind of the opposite issue, where the lighting is not appearing as strongly. I'd just like, first of all, liquefy this a bit to follow more standard face proportions. This one's more like well proportionate than the top one, so it's much easier to fix. I did this. I'd also recommend you working on your hands a bunch. Like, I think the palm should be much more down here like this, and then the finger much longer, and then these fingers come out from here, you know. That's how I basically fix it. I'm gonna probably link on the description a few tutorials that I really like, but you can probably also just find them in a playlist I always keep very close to the heart here on YouTube, which is like tutorials from other artists. You can find that playlist on my channel, and it's like my favorite tutorials out there, or resources and stuff. I'd make these eyes a lot prettier, like here. You also should keep in mind she should have lighter palms. I often forget this too, but she should. And here you can give a lot more structure, I'd say. You have to think about metal as like there is a light, and then right close to the light there should be a dark, and then a mid-tone, and that's kind of it, you know. And you can just mix and match this, and it's gonna look much more like metal than this kind of other method you applied here. Like here, there is her chin, her nose, her lips, the bottom of her eyes, and this is just like bounce light, right, from her armor, which probably was in the reference picture. Again, I know exactly what you're referencing here. I'd flip my canvas if you're unhappy with your art. You could see new things that your eyes can't see at first glance. I'd make the curls more defined, but this is just me nitpicking. I think you have a good eye, you know. I think you can really like grow as an artist with time. I also recommend spending more time in your art. Like here on the helmet, on the little shoulder piece, do you think you could make it better? Do you think you could put more time and energy on it? You know, sometimes I struggle with knowing how and when to stop rendering a piece. But if you're a beginner, I really recommend you looking around and thinking, oh, did I do this poorly because I didn't have time, because I was rushing through a piece? Sometimes the moments you learn the most are the moments you spend time doing little details, Although you don't really have to focus on them, sometimes that's good, because if you don't know how to render metal, for an example, if you give an armor a little bit of more love, you can really develop more that skill. Hope that was helpful. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to everybody. There were 67 submissions total, each one with something that I wanted to talk about, but this is gonna have to wait for the next video, so I hope everybody likes it. And if you found it helpful, please comment down below, let me know. And if you want a part 2 so you can feature your art, also let me know. Thank you for watching, stay strong, bye!